The air, water, earth, and sun awes us. The four awesome forces of nature can provide 1,000 times more energy than we need. You are also awesome. You and me and all Earthkind are the fifth element. We are literally changing the world. Technology is now harnessing nature's awesome power for electricity, heat, and transportation. And the best news is that the clean energy transition can save us money and create a more prosperous, just, beautiful, and sustainable civilization today.
Welcome to the Awesome Earthkind Podcast. If you would, let us know who you are, where do you live, what kind of work do you do?
I'm Miriam Makhyoun, and I'm the CEO of EQ Research, a clean energy consulting firm, and a Southeast chapter director of NRDC's Environmental Entrepreneurs. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. EQ Research's clean energy policy analysts, several of whom came from NC State University's Desire database project funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, have been helping clients track, analyze, and understand clean energy policy across the United States at EQ Research since its founding in 2013. We also serve as expert witnesses before utilities commissions.
So, wow, you've been doing this for how long, Miriam?
Well, I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I started out at North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association doing market intelligence, tracking the cost of solar as it declined in the state, much thanks to the RPS and the tax credit in North Carolina that expired in 2017. And then I moved to SEPA, which used to be the Solar Electric Power Association and is now the Smart Electric Power Alliance. And I was helping utilities and the solar industry find collaborative solutions there. And then I moved to Pacific Gas and Electric, PG&E, where I was in portfolio management, buying and selling resource adequacy capacity, and also managing the carbon compliance tools. And then I went to a CCA called MCE, formerly known as Marine Clean Energy. And I was buying power for that agency. Mostly hydro, and I led the first, the RFO for energy storage in 2018 at MCE. And then I came to EQ Research to be their CEO in January 2019. And I really learned about tracking policy from my colleagues, but I brought some business experience and some California knowledge and more of a data-driven approach to the way we do things there.
Wow, so boy, what a broad spectrum of deep experience from the nonprofit research side to the utility side to the community choice aggregation, bulk purchasing, power side, and now EQ Research tracking everything that's going on in the country. Pretty amazing, I'll tell you. All right, well, so we like to start with, we call it a quantum quote, a kind of inspirational quote that kind of sets people's mindset. So do you have one you care to share?
Use the devil's tools to win the angel's war.
Use the devil's tools to win the angel's war. Wow. So go ahead, tell me what that means.
To me, that means I got my MBA in order to really actually bring about change using business tools. When I would look at the environmental issues that we would see, years and years ago, ever since I learned how thin the ozone layer was in elementary school, it seemed like things weren't moving fast enough. And sometimes you just got to use the devil's tools. You got to use, money. You got to, make the money go to the solutions that you want to solve. So that's why I like that quote, which I don't remember where I heard it from.
Okay, no, fascinating. That's great. And so why are you in clean energy? What attracts you to this whole thing?
I was inspired by an experience I had when I was in student government at Appalachian State University when co-authoring the Renewable Energy Initiative, the REI, the student referendum for a student self-imposed per semester fee towards on-campus renewable energy installations in 2004. The REI resulted in the construction of a wind turbine and installation of solar panels, geothermal heating and cooling systems, and biodiesel buses, for example. Clean energy was a fascination ever since, particularly the kinds of projects that bring communities together.
Wow. Neat. And so what type of clean energy measures do you track now? Like, what do you look at?
EQ Research tracks over 50 policy types as part of its Policy Vista subscription services. Policy types such as net metering, grid modernization, carbon goals, and rate design are just a few of the topics we cover at the state level through legislation and regulation.
And then who are your customers?
Our customers are everyone from national laboratories to large energy consumers, renewable energy developers, electric vehicle manufacturers, and supply equipment makers, and everyone in between who might have an interest.
Neat. And what do you see as the forces that are driving the development of clean energy? What do you see?
The states are leading the way on decarbonization. Utilities will only do what they are mandated to do. For example, when they release an IRP, they may give you about 10 scenarios, but they're going to do the least cost unless there's some other regulation that's forcing them to get certain types of technologies into their portfolio. Public utilities commissions, if they're to measure the decarbonization pathway, they need to coordinate with other entities such as air resources boards in order to have the scientific backing to consistently measure and track carbon emission equivalent reductions. But the biggest trend in state policy that I've seen is environmental justice being folded into decarbonization policies. Legislation and regulation are requiring utilities and governments to have more dialogue with their communities on how certain energy projects may affect them. And in several states, there are carve-outs for disadvantaged communities to benefit from rebates and other incentives and siting requirements that prevent fossil plants from being built in certain communities without their approval.
And so that's based on historically the fact that a lot of power plants and other environmentally detrimental development has happened in low and moderate income communities. Is that basically the idea?
Yes, that is the idea.
And so when you see this transition that's happening from fossil fuels, how do you see it going and what do you see as the outcomes?
The transformation away from fossil fuels is happening now, as you know, and you can see the effects, both the challenges and the opportunities. There is definitely a need for more grid infrastructure. So I think that the type of outcome is that we're going to have to look at our infrastructure, which is something that we're doing as a country, and that's great.
And so the outcomes, as you see it, like how soon and what's going to happen when?
Well, most state goals are for the year 2050 for being net zero carbon or 100% clean energy. But there needs to be a federal clean energy standard and more transmission in the US so that clean energy produced in excess of any one state's needs can be shared by neighboring states. And clean energy will be more reliable because of the federal infrastructure that can support it. As of the spring of 2021, 19 states have 100% clean energy targets, and 4 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico, have 100% renewable energy targets, all by 2050, some by 2035. But only a handful of them are legally binding. 7 states, California, Hawaii, New Mexico, New York, Virginia, Rhode Island, and Washington, plus DC and Puerto Rico. So what I mean by that, by legally binding, is that many of the goals are either executive orders or study bills or targets, soft targets. With a federal clean energy standard and more transmission, we can all get to the same page as a country before 2050 and have more reliable and cleaner power.
Cool. So what kind of challenges have you encountered as you've been doing this work, and what kind of lessons have you learned, and what are you doing differently now than you used to do?
Well, I always, consider what is my objective in what I'm doing. And it almost always involves other people getting on board. You really can't do anything alone. So my approach to getting things done is having one-on-one conversations and then get everyone together in a group. I find that to be almost always the best way to get there, not only because you've considered everyone's opinions and you can build a better type of objective than the one you originally had in your mind, but also because everyone feels heard, seen, and has a stake in things.
Cool. So would you say that's your biggest tip, if you would tell people, a unique tip, tool, tactic that everybody needs to know and most people don't? Is that your tip, or do you have something else in mind?
Actually, yeah, I would say that that's my biggest tip for life for getting things done. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's awesome. Fantastic. And, well, all of us in our careers, we've had kind of these down moments, and it's sometimes in those most depressed down times that we come to some realization about what we're doing and need to do differently. Do you have one you'd care to share about your worst clean energy moment and what you learned from it?
Yeah, so I think that I've learned that, you know, sometimes you might question what an organization is doing. And, for example, if you're working for a company that maybe is not making the most ethical decisions, I think bringing that to the attention of the people inside of the organization first and really being honest with them is the best way. I think sometimes I've been a little bit cowardly and gone to more outside sources, or just kind of ruminated among other people my issues. And so I think, if you really want your organization to have high integrity, you really need to be brave and you need to say something. I don't want to give specific examples about that, but I did want to relay that message.
So speak up, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, very important. Well, many times in our lives, comes this moment where we've been working at something, banging our head against the wall, and all of a sudden, somehow, some way, some shape, fashion, we get this aha kind of moment where we get it. Did you have any particular time when that happened to you? Could you share that story?
Sure. Yeah, so evaluating energy storage projects while at MCE, you had some people offering ancillary services and some offering just RA and some offering energy only. And so I learned that if I wanted to really compare all of these great projects, you had to do an apples to apples comparison. And so with my boss at the time, Greg Brem, who is now at LS Power, we developed this net RA value approach, net capacity value approach. So that was an aha moment that's a little on the nerdy side, but I apply it to everything. So whenever I'm comparing choices, I'm like, okay, what is the value of this component relative to this other component? And can you make like a net value off of one component that maybe they all have in common?
Indeed. All right. So we're going to enter what we call the Pulsar Round, where we ask you a series of questions and we look for your short, succinct, amazing, and mind-blowing answers. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. Very good. And a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Planning.
Planning. Wow. Do you spend a lot of time planning?
I mean, I use a Google Calendar, and everything that I want to accomplish, I have it all laid out for the entire week, and I'll just drag things around as needed to reprioritize so I can see it visually.
Awesome. Nice. Fantastic. All right. An internet resource that you think folks should know about?
eq-research.com.
eq-research.com. All the good stuff that you need to know from across the country.
What kind of CEO would I be if I didn't say that? Great. But also you should go there.
What's that?
What kind of CEO would I be if I didn't say that?
That's right.
Our blog has a lot of good information.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. It's incredible. And the amount of work that you guys do and the info that you put out is just really, really important and helpful and critical to people making these decisions about where to invest, where to put time, what the markets are like, what's changing, what the policies are coming. I mean, it's just incredible stuff. So thank you so much for that. All right, a book you'd recommend for folks?
Well, I recommend people join a book club that we're doing right now with our local energy drinks group called Revolutionary Power. And it is about energy justice, which I don't fully understand, and I'm trying to learn. So I recommend everyone join up, contact me, and let's talk about that subject, because the way that it actually matriculates through policies is going to be really important in the next few years as we decarbonize in the right way.
Wow. So Revolutionary Power, and it's a book club. And how do people find out about it or get a hold of it?
Yeah, you can just email me or tweet me at Miriam Mac Energy.
All right. There you go. And if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change one thing for everybody in the world, what would it be?
Oh, for everyone in the world. I was going to say more charging stations because I drive a Chevy Bolt. And right now, of course, with the Colonial Pipeline, my Bolt is looking pretty good for long distance travel. But my mom and sister always think I'm going to be late because I have to figure out what charging station's available. And anyway, I just want there to be more fast charging stations, and I want them to be faster because this 4-hour journey to see my mom is often way too long. I won't even admit how long it takes me.
Ah, okay. So you're one of the ones that in some percentage of your time, because most people, 98% of the time, they're not going more than 100 miles. So for 98% of most people's trips in America, an electric car, you plug it in overnight into a regular wall socket, you're good for 98% of your trips. But you take these 400-mile drives to go see your mom. Is that what it is? 400 miles, 4-hour drive, right?
Or 4-hour drive.
It's like 250 miles?
270. Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to stop, and therefore you do need a high-speed DC fast charger, unless you're going to rent the car.
I need it faster, more high speed.
Faster.
Double DC.
Faster, better, stronger. And it's coming. That's a great piece, right? So we've got across the country, we've got a lot of electrified America that's happening, where that $2 billion of Volkswagen settlement funds are being invested in charging stations, and lots of things happen in many states, but needs to happen faster. Okay, make it happen all at once. That'd be great. And since transportation is almost 40% of the carbon, that would be a great thing to get us all off.
Yeah, and this pipeline thing, I think it's going to help us out. I mean, it's terrible, but we've got to, feel the pain sometimes to move.
So remind folks what happened with that.
Oh, yeah. So the Colonial Pipeline, services a majority of the Southeast, and I actually don't know the reason why the supply got held up, but right now
hacked, right? Their systems.
Oh yes,
were hacked.
That's right. Dark side.
Yep.
Dark side. A Russian cabal, probably of teenagers, hacked it. That's right.
Hacked them and held them ransom, right, for all their all their codes. Yes, ransomware. It could happen to you too. Hopefully, it won't happen to any of us. But actually, that's the big one that's happened so far this year. So hey, momentous. But actually, it happened to my my orthopedics whole office got shut down for a month. Believe it or not. So no phones, no computers, no scheduling, no anything for a month from ransomware attacks. And yep, it happened on the fuel system, and definitely makes you want to be more energy independent and resilient. There's no doubt about that. So,
and it does make you think maybe, that whole argument for distributed energy is probably a good argument, considering that this could happen with electricity as well.
Yep.
So microgrids, anyone?
Microgrids, independent, yes indeed. Have your own energy system where, if you look at the potential future where we've got solar on if you have a single family residence or whatever, you got solar supplying the electricity, then supplying the heating and cooling for heat pumps with air and ground source heat pumps, and also electric vehicles. So now you've got the whole thing all in your little self-contained unit, little micro grid. And the next wave with the cars is that those batteries can actually supply, a Nissan Leaf can supply the average family with 3 to 5 days of power for their whole house. So they're able to discharge as well as charge your vehicle. Now you've got a self-contained little micro grid that lets you just stand alone when the grid goes down.
Gosh, Ron, very cool. Is that what you do at your home?
Isn't that cool? So yeah, the soft and hardware for the Leaf is coming out this summer, actually. So I'm very excited about that piece. Absolutely. Neat. So yep, I've been waiting. I have my Leaf all ready to go. So, but it's going to happen with every car. And eventually, basically every electric vehicle you'll be able to charge and discharge. And it's amazing the amount of power in them. I mean, they really are batteries on wheels, and they've got so much power. A Nissan Leaf can go 225 miles on the charge, and that amount of kilowatt hours can support the average American home for 3 to 5 days. So it's, the technology is just amazing, and it's just incredible. So cool. Awesome. All right. We call this section the WTF or F section, where we talk about weather time fudge, an extreme weather event that you lived through and tell the tale, or weather time fun, the most fun you've ever had and the type of weather it was. So which would you like to choose?
Well, the weather time fudge.
Please.
Yes. So when I was working at MCE, there were some pretty dry years, and that was not good when it came to fires, as everyone knows. And so that extreme weather did create the conditions that were necessary for fires to spread. And we were managing the power for Napa County, and overnight they lost 4% of their load. Of course, we didn't have all that data in for 48 hours because there was a lag between PG&E delivering it to us. But just knowing that that is the case, that has precipitated a lot more distributed and microgrid solutions in Napa County. And that is wine country. And of course, a lot of vineyards perished and had to restart. So that was not fun, but it was an energy moment for sure. And it definitely changed my perception, made reliability issues much more real.
Wow. So, so the fires, did they threaten you too, or you were far enough away that wasn't a direct scare? Or
yeah, there aren't that many trees in San Francisco where I was. So,
okay, so you were a little further
but
away.
it was eerie to look across, for 2 years in a row while I was there, just to look across the bridge there and see smoke coming from the other side of the bay. Yeah.
And Nicole Lederer, who heads up the environmental entrepreneurs that we're both associated with, tells the tale about the day when there was no sunshine because of the clouds of smoke that just blocked out the sun throughout that whole area. So
I know, the only fun thing.
Yeah, crazy. The scariest thing to me are now fire tornadoes. Have you seen those?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to see them, but I've seen pictures of them. It's like crazy, right? So you got it, not just a fire, but now a wildfire going crazy. And then in the midst of that, you've got a tornado that's spinning and spitting fire tornado around. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? So talk about crazy, scary, boy. So, well, I'm so glad that you made it through. And yeah, you're right. I mean, in terms of resiliency and energy planning, and you were with the Marin County Energy, was that the community choice
Marin Clean Energy,
Marin
but
Clean
they represent several counties, so they go by MCE now.
MCE, yes. Right? So they're the community choice aggregation, where the community decided to purchase electricity in bulk, and now they're doing all sorts of great things and figuring out how to move to clean energy as a whole group of people with bulk buying power, right?
That's right.
Yep. And a lot of CCAs across the country now, community choice aggregation programs, right?
Yeah, I mean, the California full retail model is a bit unique, but several states are trying to emulate it. In most places where there are CCAs, they're more commodity-based, based in negotiators for energy service companies, like in New York and New England. But I think eventually we'll see more of that full retail model.
Great. Yeah, wonderful. Yep. In New York, I did some work for the community choice aggregation program that first started up, in the first one in New York, and now there's a whole pile of them all across. And yeah, mostly it's bulk power purchasing on an energy service basis. So you're purchasing electricity, commodity electricity, and then adding in a renewable energy credit to make your supply of electricity clean and green. But a lot of folks are moving towards more integrated models like you had in California, and where you start to do things with renewables and efficiency, and you add on a whole host of additional programs, which is always the key. So it's wonderful. All right, what are you most energized about today, Miriam?
Yes, this very day I'm energized about some automation that we're rolling out at EQ Research for our clients to be able to have updates that are live, to their emails on legislation and regulation as it's being, changed. So I'm working with the team on that, and we're getting closer. So I just want to make our clients happier and make the information more accessible. So that's important.
Cool. Great. So what's next for you? Is that your next piece?
Yeah, well, we also are going to be updating our 100% clean energy, 100% renewable energy maps that we have on our website. They were last updated in April of 2020, but a lot of legislation has been passed. And so we're going to show a multi-layered map in the next, in about a month or so from now. We'll have a multi-layered map. You'll be able to toggle through proposed legislation, enacted legislation, standards that are actually legally enforceable for states to have clean or renewable energy versus those that are just goals. And then whether the states have goals or standards for clean, i.e., they may have some nuclear in there, something about carbon, they have some kind of carbon goal, large hydro might count, versus 100% renewable. And there you might have biomass, which might count. So the states are doing it all kinds of different ways. Of course, this is America, but we want to show all of this on the map to show the universe of different clean energy state policies.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Sounds incredible. All right, well, grand finale. So a piece of parting guidance and advice and the best way for people to get a hold of you.
Well, my guidance and advice would be, I recently learned that calling your legislators is better than sending an email. I mean, you certainly can sign like a bulk email or a petition or something like that. But if you want change, picking up the phone is the best way to do it. And then the best way people can connect with me is either through email, which is Makhyoun at eq-research.com, or Twitter, Miriam Mac Energy on Twitter. But also just go to our website, eq-research.com, and you'll definitely get in touch with us. You can email the info email as well.
Great.
Thanks for joining us today, awesome people. We'd like to hear from you, and we'll give you the chance to win a $150 LED light fixture if you help us understand how Awesome Earthkind can help you achieve your clean energy goals. Just go to awesomeearthkind.com and click on Tell Us. When you fill out the survey, you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes for a free LED light fixture, and we'll be giving one away every month for the rest of the year. If you like what we're doing, please rate and review the Awesome Earthkind podcast on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're interested in adding clean energy consulting to your existing business offerings, go to awesomeearthkind.com/earn. When you refer us to a commercial building and they decide to go clean and save green with Earthkind Energy's consulting services, your referral will save money and you'll earn finder's fees worth thousands of dollars. Remember, you are an awesome force of nature and can make a real difference. Take your next step to create the clean energy future we all want and our children need and deserve. Until next time, take care, be well, and energize.